Hello and welcome to another Physical Education and Wellness Curriculum Implementation video. In this session, we are now in the third series of videos. We're going to be looking at effective physical education pedagogy, or the art of teaching in the gym. This is a two-part series. When we're doing it live, this is going to be broken into probably 5 or 6 different videos for the asynchronous sessions. So as you can see, I am in my gym. Welcome to the home of the Osprey. So in my little alternative program, we are finally competing in several sports. Before I get started, I just want to do a quick 360 of my gym. So filming in the gym poses some challenges, but this is my main door over here. Okay, as we go around, this is our lunchroom stuff. You'll notice I have no basketball nets that are up. This is pretty much how it was left before I came into video. So what you're seeing is what I work with. Now, I do have 7 different physical education teachers from grade 1 to grade 9 in here. Right, we do have a Canadian climber that we use. Have a stage, which is also used for lunch. It's filled with tables. I'm going to take you a little roll over here to my equipment room. All right, equipment room in here, we got all kinds of stuff. Okay, and that brings us right back to my main teaching board. I got to reverse that, otherwise all my cables get mixed up. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about in this very first video is the difference between teaching in a classroom and teaching in the gym. So let's just jump in and let's get started. From time to time, I'm going to make my screen a little bigger, so you don't just have to look at a screen. So these two things have been mottos for me ever since I started teaching, and that was over 20 years ago. So first one is every kid, every day, and undefeated at the end of the day. When we go through these sessions, please don't try and write everything down. I'm doing my best to give you all the notes for the slides that I'm talking about, all the teaching points. The other big thing is that you're probably doing a lot of these things already, and sometimes just that little bit of intentionality, when we start to become aware of what we're doing, it actually amplifies and ramps up what we're doing. One of the big things for me is that if things aren't going well, I come back to these basics. I come back to these things that I've learned over the last 2 decades, because usually if I tweak something, lo and behold, there it is. Everything kind of comes right back into it. So today, or in this whole series, see if you can find 1, 2, maybe 3 things to start to implement. You can always come back and add things as you go on. For example, I don't ever carry Phys.Ed equipment. I don't think that's part of my job. I use that as a leadership, some character, and some roles. So let's move through. So in this first, this is the live sessions, so just in case you're going to come to the live sessions as well, this is my structure I'm using for those. As you can see, we got classroom versus the gym. Teacher success, these are things that teachers can do to amp up their pedagogy, how to build character and team, using those team spirit, teamwork components of the new curriculum, how to embed them into your Phys.Ed class easily. Part B is going to be on student success, using discussions in Phys.Ed and some of those assessment skills. So as I had mentioned, this comes from a session that I have been delivering around the province at teachers' conventions for quite some time. This is a short list of some of my mentors and those of you who are in the physical education world. This is like a who's who of who kind of created the rich tapestry of physical education in this province. I also just would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are all on traditional territories in Alberta of the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. Paul Marlette, hopefully you've been at some of my other sessions or you've read my bio. The big thing about me is that I am a pedagogy nerd. Okay, I'm an action researcher. I was part of the learning innovation team. I've been part of alternative programs for the last 10 years, and I am just passionate about getting kids outside and active and moving so we can build a healthier, happier society. There we go. There we are. So, classroom versus the gym. I'm going to move this over here. There we are. So there are some key major differences between teaching in the classroom and teaching in the gym. Now, just as a reminder, I have taught everywhere from grade 1 all the way to grade 12. I spent 8 or 6 years as an elementary generalist teaching grades 1 all the way up to grade 4. I'm currently teaching math, so I do know the difference between the two. So hopefully I can shed a little bit of light onto this kind of situation as we move forward. So first thing is, wow, that camera is going to be a bit of a challenge today, but that's okay. We'll work with it. We will be unfazed. So just as a quick comparison between some of the big differences between the classroom and the gym. Right? Number one, in the classroom, it's often more democratic. We talk about our classroom. We talk about our rules. In the gym, it's your gym. It's my gym. When I need your attention, I need it now. If I am asking you to do something, I don't want you to question me in the moment. If I'm offering you the opportunity to ask questions, that's the time. We'll talk about that why as we move forward. In the classroom, kids are often not moving very much. Now, they may be milling about, but in the gym, they are constantly moving. In the classroom, energy is going to build up the more they sit. In the gym, this is where we get to release that energy. Okay? Management in the classroom is more on focus, academic engagement. How can you twist an activity so that kid can come back into it? In the gym, management is movement. Right? The next couple pieces are about talking. I like a gym where kids are talking and talking loud. Why? Because that's athletics. You can't be quiet when you're on a volleyball court because no one hears you. Right? And this is a hard thing to come around because I find many teachers who are not trained in gym but are teaching it get really worried when the noise gets up. And there is a point, trust me, there's many times I will stop the class and be like, okay, this is too much. This is okay. So there is a lot of instruction as we do that, as we go forward. Another interesting thing is in the gym, we're often working, or in the classroom, we're working alone, or we're working in groups where it's 3 or 4 kids for maybe 15, 20, 30. Maybe they're in that same group for even a couple of days. In the gym, those groups are going to switch much quicker. In the classroom, we're asking kids to follow their expectations. So we make those classroom expectations. We hold students to them. Okay? In the gym, much of the control is going to come from students responding instantly to you. That way you know that if something's coming or you see something, you can respond to it. In the classroom, students' actions often don't result in serious injuries. In the gym, there is a high risk of that. And the last one is that in the classroom, it's often what we're doing, what the students are doing. How are they going to make their personal best? Where in the gym, there's this big idea that we need our teammates. We can't succeed without them. And that doesn't matter what level they're at. So in this series, I'm going to address many of those things as we go through the shorter videos and in the live sessions. So let's get right into it. Number 1, get them in and get them moving. This comes from my father-in-law, a brilliant physical educator by the name of Daniel Cooney. And his whole philosophy for his entire career was they're here to have fun and move and to improve. They're here to have fun, to move, and improve. So our job as phys-ed teachers is to get out of their way and get them playing. Okay? It's called physical education. Physical. It's not sitting. It's not elimination games. It's not 7 kids waiting for one turn to throw a ball. Okay? So when you come into the gym, there is a bit of a mental mind shift. Mental, of course, is mental mind. There is a mind shift that we have to make so kids can actually get moving much quicker. Doors. Okay. You notice that my main door was open and my equipment room doors. This is just something that I like to stress because there's some pretty big implications on it. So number 1, doors to a gym should always be locked. Okay. If you're in a school where you don't have a phys-ed specialist, these doors get opened up and closed a lot. There's a lot of stuff happening in the gyms. If a door is open and a student happens to come in and gets hurt, the liability actually falls on the teacher who didn't close the door. So it's something that if you are a specialist or if you are a generalist, and no one's really talked about this, really consider that. As you saw in my little thing as we look around, That stage, in Calgary several times, students have gotten in the gym and done stupid things. Go figure, students doing stupid things. But if they fall off and get hurt, the school's liable for that. Okay, so I'm pretty meticulous with that. When I see an open door coming down the hallway, that's a huge red flag. My first thing I'm looking for is who's in the gym. Is anyone in the gym? Okay, so just that. Okay, in the classroom, I leave my classroom from time to time to go check things out. In a gym, we can't afford that because it's too much risk for injury. So the other big thing about doors is that no one leaves without you knowing. Okay, so again, we send students to the bathroom in a classroom environment. We don't think too much of it. But in a gym, a lot of kids are embarrassed when they get hurt. So if a kid gets hurt and leaves without telling you, we don't know what's happened to them. I have some diabetic students. I have some students with different conditions. When a student who's just run really hard, they never sit down, they never leave on their own. So I'll often buddy them up. So when you're dealing with doors, even my equipment room doors, it's hard to see right there, but my doors open out. A door that opens out is a huge risk because if we're running around, kids can hit that. And if they hit that, they're going to get hurt. So I actually modified my benches so they actually lock in, just like that. Okay, so again, this is just one of those things. We really have to be a little more hyper vigilant about the things we're doing in the gym. Next, what is your safety, what did I call that, routine? That's a good word for it. What is your safety routine? Do you just run in or do you send the kids in and get them running? Go, 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 go. Okay? What do you look at when you first come into the gym? So for a phys-ed specialist, when we walk in, or when I walk into a gym, and a lot of the colleagues that I work with, we do a quick scan. And as I got further in my career, I started actually having my students do the scan. So when I did my first little rotation around the gym, a couple things to notice. I have these bins over here. I've tried to get them out, but we need them. All the kids know about it. We draw their attention to it regularly. My basketball hoop is often in the corner because this is a really big issue. If I can get a little closer to it, I'll show you why. So there's probably about a 2-foot gap behind my basketball hoop to the wall. And that might not seem like a big thing, but if you've got 10, 15 kids running through there, I got a lot of sharp edges on that. So I don't actually like where this is set up. This basketball hoop should be pulled forward about at least 2 feet. So I have room behind it and in front of it. Clothing. Again, this is how my gym was left. So the clothing on the floor, please, when you come in, just take a notice. Anything on the floor has got to get off. Because if a kid steps on that and slips, you got concussions. Little big thing. We got a bench over here that's in front of my Canadian climber. Again, doesn't seem like a big deal, but it sticks out from the wall. I don't know if you've ever had a kid smash their shins on a bench, but it's ugly and they bleed a lot. Another thing is that I've got a bench just over here, over on this side, on the left-hand side. Oh, am I not mirrored? No, this side. There it is. And it's actually blocking in behind my basketball hoop. Why is that a problem? Well, kids love to run over benches. And if they're running over benches onto a basketball hoop, now I've got kids who are potentially like serious injuries. So your assessment should also include the floor. The most dangerous thing on a gym floor is actually water. Okay, so if there's any water, and it's hard to tell, kids bring water bottles in, they slip, that stuff happens. So if there's water on the floor, you really want to make sure no kids are running before you get there. Right? So that safety assessment is something that's very different than when you walk into your classroom. As I said, I have 7 teachers who are in here, and some of them are new. I haven't had a chance to discuss all the protocols with everyone yet. But when we have those protocols in place, it's just a safer environment. Right? Now, in the new curriculum, there's a lot of opportunity for students to take on roles and to develop some character. So why not have a safety routine, an assessment team who comes in and picks stuff up, looks for water before everyone gets running. Now, can we have students doing something while that's happening? Of course you can. We can do some stretching. You can be setting up a game. You can be getting equipment out. So you can make this a very efficient space. Okay. So the other big thing is, in terms of safety assessment, is do you have eyes on your kids before you're in the gym? So do you notice anyone physically limping? Do you notice anyone who's looking a little emotionally unstable? Is there some social situations you may have to watch? So that safety assessment is also for your students. Expectations prior to the gym. Now, one of the beautiful things that many elementary teachers have, as you're also asked to teach Phys.Ed, is you are leaving from your classroom. So you have this beautiful bit of time where you can preset your expectations, the things that you're going to be looking for. What's going to happen in the gym today? Maybe that's where you find your roles. Okay, who's going to be my safety assessment team? Who's going to be my equipment managers? Get it all ready so when you get to the gym, super efficient. I will often give my warm-ups to the class before we get to the gym. Most of them are well trained and wait behind a closed door. Sometimes the door's open and they're in here though. But at least when they come in, I know what they're doing. Right? In the assessment piece, we're going to talk about how to embed some character and teamwork. This is a great way to start talking about that. What would you like to see? Are you looking for supportive language? Are there some phrases for the little kids you'd like to hear them all use? This can all be done before you're physically in the gym, because let's face it, when they get to the gym, they just get antsy and they just want to go. So if we can give some of that instruction ahead of time, it's going to make your life a lot easier. The things that we want to keep in the forefront. This is very similar to when you're teaching an academic course or subject. So what you focus on in the gym will improve. Now, why do I make this such a big deal? Because if we're focusing on kids not listening, if we're focusing on kids not sitting still, if we're focusing on kids like that negative side, okay, in the gym, the best quote I can give you is catch a kid being good. And I don't just mean good like emotionally, but doing the things that you've asked them to do. Because the more kids hear you like praise, the more that's going to happen in your class. And I know a lot of teachers question me on this. Okay, but as an action researcher and in learning innovation, this is what I've done for the last 20 years, is that I pick something to test and I do it. So in the gym, what you want to focus on is going to shift. And it takes constant praise and feedback and correction. So for example, if you want to focus on clear communication with teammates, if you've got a group who doesn't get along very well, is it going to be teamwork, or like or what's it called? Being good sports, right? Or are you going to focus on getting to an open space, right? Just focus on those one or two things, and the new curriculum gives you those key things very clearly. This one's a little more serious, but again, I like to bring it up because, again, what we focus on improves. So in many elementary schools, the injuries that are really common are collisions, often slips and trips and stuff like that. Often kids kids hitting walls, right? Another really common injury is just kids falling over each other, right? When we get into some of the implementations, kids running into like badminton poles, right? So if you can foresee what potential risks are there, this is a great time to start bringing it to their attention. Before you do a warm-up, again, stop, ground kids, because they just want to get in and start running. Okay, so there's a game that I love to play. It's called the Crazy Saskatchewan, or Chaos. It's a ridiculous kind of kickball type game. And I bring it up because it's also one of the sketchiest games that you can play in a gym. Basically, the teams switch on the fly. And I don't recommend a lot of teachers try it until they have a really good understanding on how to control a class. With regards to like the signals that we give kids, because you can foresee collisions happening really quickly. Right? Now, the crazy thing about the Crazy Saskatchewan game, if you're from Saskatchewan, it's nothing personal. Okay, but it's also risky physically, emotionally, and with a sense of fairness, because as a teacher, you're constantly blowing the whistle or letting the kids know that they need to switch sides. And if you miss it, some kids get really worked up. Right? So in terms of risk, it's not just the physical risk we're talking about. It's also that emotional and like social risks. And remember, it is your gym. So this is not the class's space. It's a very different mindset when you're the one who's in charge of this space. But that also means that if you foresee things and you see things happening and don't stop it, then it's also our responsibility to acknowledge that and to improve. Not to say I did something wrong, but I missed that. I'm going to switch that up for next time. Above all, make it fun. It's got to be fun. It's got to be fun. There's no need to yell and punish kids in here. Okay, in a classroom, I understand that there's times when we get frustrated. Kids won't sit down. They're all over the place. Okay? But in the gym, you have this beautiful opportunity. If the kids are not focusing, their energy is wild. You can say, okay, everyone, I want you to run and touch that wall, and meet me back here. When you're back here, give me 10 jumping jacks. Okay? That can be fun because the kids at least get to move. Okay? And here's the crazy thing, is that the fun component leads to kids seeing activity as something that's good for them, something that they'll enjoy. And that leads to healthy, long life individuals. Okay? That doesn't really make sense, but that's how it's written. But that's what promotes students being active for a lifetime. Okay? Very few people are going to learn new math things every month or every year of their life. But in physical education, for me, it's one of those subjects where lifelong learning is incredibly possible. Okay? So push-ups, jumping jacks, jogging on the spot, giving high fives, anything. Movement is the best management you can use. Right? So, and they're going to complain. Just get used to that. Kids today generally have very little resistance or resiliency. Okay? They have very little resiliency, and they will benefit from that challenge. And when you push them a little bit, they will respond, even like getting kids to hustle in. Okay? I still count down. I'm not going to punish them if they get past that, but the idea is we're in Phys.Ed, let's get our heart rates up. Right? Now, the other neat thing is that in the gym, you have the best means to help students regulate. That doesn't mean you go at 100 every time. If that class is so ramped up, they're just buzzing, they just won't settle down, you can sit them down, have them take 3 breaths. Nose breaths, straw breaths, whatever you want to use. Right? So this regulation is activity, but also the opposite. Once you get your blood pumping, great time to slow things down. So when we are not trying to control the environment, but we stay in control of ourselves, we're not going to take things as personally. So if a student just has so much energy that they just can't control themselves and they're doing stuff, instead of us blasting that kid for being active, you can work with that kid more one-on-one, stay in control yourself and be like, hey, this is why this doesn't work. Remember, this is my space. I'm in charge of your safety, so I need you to do this instead. Okay? So we talk quieter, not louder, which is ironic. Most gym teachers have this big gym voice, but when you talk quieter, you actually have more power in the environment. Instructions, again, if we're talking too much, those kids, we're going to lose them. They just want to get moving. And remember, if a student isn't participating, it might be because there's something going on that you need to figure out. It also might be that they just don't want to do it and they need some more encouragement to do that, right? And remember just who the adult is. Okay, so they're kids just doing kid things. They are going to push things from time to time. They're going to push your limits. But that's when, instead of trying to control the kid, if we stay in control and control the environment, then we can kind of move our way through that in a more peaceful way. And that's, again, if it's not fun, now we're actually causing kids trauma, or we're causing them stress, or we're changing their belief about being active. The one difference is I do have a big gym voice, and I only use it if there is some kind of immediate physical danger or I need to stop something before it happens. Then I'm going to yell, and it's going to stop kids very quickly. This little piece is, I put it in here because it's similar to a classroom, but it's different than coaching. Okay, so this is more how the gym is different than coaching. And the reason it is because in the gym, we're here to educate students on how to live healthy, active lifestyles. We're not here to help them compete. That's what extracurricular sports are for. Right? If you have 50% of your kids competitive, 50 not, those competitive kids get a lot more out of working with those other students who are there to just be active and to learn some things than if you always give them the opportunity to compete at a high level. Okay, physical activity and enjoyment in sport is about working with community and working with people. So just something to keep in mind. You're going to see this series quite a bit throughout the next 5 videos. This is a basic skills series that CAFERD, now PHE Canada, put together. This was put together by some of the greats in physical education in the country, and it's still remarkable how practical and how realistic and how great these resources are. So just as a throwback to many of my mentors, you're going to be seeing these things as we move forward. Active students are great leaders in the gym. These students are the ones who in the classroom often struggle. Our ADHD kids, our high-end athletes who just don't see the value in academics yet, especially in elementary. This is where you get to push them, but not always physically. This is where you're asking them to take on leadership roles. You're asking them to support students. If they're really good in a sport, you're going to make it challenging for them so they can compete on an equal level eventually, right? Maybe have them do your setup and takedown. That's kind of a privilege, and it gives them something else to do. I don't let students into my equipment room unless they have been asked. That's it. Again, it's a privilege. And what I find is that my students who need to move and are really like kinesthetically gifted, they're the ones who will volunteer a lot for that because it gives them that opportunity to show something that they may be really confident in. The other big thing here is you'll see PELT down here. PELT is actually my physical education and athletic leadership team. Was self-named by my students last year. And they do most of my work for me. If nothing else, at least have a leadership team to clean up your equipment room. Makes a huge difference. So how do you expect students to behave? Again, what we focus on is going to expand. So if you're noticing that your students are behaving in a way in the gym that you're not happy with or you're concerned about, then what I would encourage you to do is stop and think, what is it that I want them to do? How can you build some activities in order to do that? When I was a young teacher, one of my mentors was really clear that before I had any kids moving in the gym, they had to respond to 3 different signals. At that time, it was whistles, a 1, 2, and a 3. 1 was stop, turn, see me. 2 was stop, sit down, see me. 3 whistles was run in. Well, it wasn't. It was stop, come in, sit down and listen, wherever I was in the gym. I don't use a whistle anymore, but these kind of things do need to be trained. And that's how, again, it becomes our space. Right? They're here to experience a safe environment, which means that when we're teaching, we're the ones who are in command of that. So this is some ideas. Again, I love these these little pictures are brilliant. That's why I love putting them in here. So what is it that you're really going to value? Set firm and reliable expectations. Again, this is a safety thing. Your gym is part of it. So if kids are running everywhere, you need to modify that if you're not comfortable watching what you're seeing. So modify that and see what happens as we go. So this is the end of our very first session. I hope I've given you a few things to think about. Remember 1 or 2 things that are potentially going to shift your practice a little bit. And once we have those few things started, well, then we can kind of move on. All right. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in the rest of the series, and have a fabulous day. And I'm yours in pursuit of a healthier, happier, and more engaged future.